despite a Twitter tirade in which she labeled President Trump and his supporters as white supremacists. And yet she was not even suspended. And in fact, this is what the ESPN said, tweeting this. ESPN is paying a really big price for its politics and bad programming. This is actually Donald Trump. People are dumping in record numbers, which is true, and they are firing people or laying them off because of that. Apologize for the untruth, he says. Now, Doug Adler is a former ESPN commentator. He is suing the network after they fired him for using a term called guerrilla, meaning guerrilla warfare, as not gorilla, meaning a gorilla animal in a zoo, to describe the aggressive way in which Venus Williams was winning her match at the Australian Open. Doug Adler, you've been down on the other side of this. Where's the tolerance?
Brian, I don't know, because, you know, with regards to my situation, it wasn't racially driven. It wasn't politically driven. It was just all about professional commentary, complimenting Venus Williams' style of play and her tactics, and about right and wrong. And obviously, ESPN acted wrongly and unfairly.
You're on ESPN 3, and you're doing the Australian Open, and you talked about how aggressive Venus Williams was playing, and you said she's playing in a guerrilla fashion. The next day, you're shocked to find out that people took that wrong, as if there was a racial component to it. And next thing you know, you're gone. After how many years of the network?
Over 10 years. I'd done the Australian Open and Wimbledon with ESPN over 10 years, and I also did the French Open with them as well.
This reminded me, and by the way, you do a great job, and you have nothing about this in your background, and everybody knows it, and people in the tennis community back you on that. And Venus Williams didn't say you should be fired at all. But I want to bring you back to, remember Alvin Garrett on Monday Night Football, and Howard Cosell was the color commentator? He was one of the smaller wide receivers, the Smurfs with the Redskins. And he jumped up and made an incredible catch. And Howard Cosell said, look at that little monkey, grab that ball. And he says, like I did with my grandchildren. Howard Cosell was never a racist. One of his tightest friends and greatest confidants was Muhammad Ali. But yet he was dragged through the mud there, didn't lose his job. You did.
Well, you know, I know that that affected Cosell in a very negative way. And as with myself, you know, I had a heart attack following the firing. I had to go on Twitter and defend myself. And, Brian, what I never could quite understand, and I don't understand, is I had the relationship with ESPN. I had none of this in my background at all, furthest thing away from me. And ESPN bowed down to Twitter and social media who knew nothing about me. How could they do that? How could they not do their due diligence and stick up for me? If my name were John McEnroe or Martina Navratilova, this never would have happened.
But yet Mike Ditka did eventually lose his job. And yet Curt Schilling immediately lost his job. And sadly, do you think politics plays a role in that, even though this is slightly different?
You know, I'd hate to think that that's the case. I don't even want to make an assumption because, you know, a lot of people made assumptions about me, and they didn't know the first thing about me, so they were wrong. So I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense, particularly when the people at ESPN and my colleagues said they knew exactly what I meant and what I was referring to as a compliment to Venus's style of play.
So do you think it's corporate America? Do you think it's sponsors putting pressure on corporations like Disney that own ESPN that say, make the change? I'm seeing the backlash on my products and advertisers. My bottom line's affected. I don't care about the future of one sportscaster who happens to be great at calling tennis and other sports.
That would be really sad if that be the case. I mean, it's certainly a culture that's being manifested over at ESPN. And for someone like myself, I mean, you wonder where the loyalty is. I'm a professional, and ESPN is listening to amateurs. It just doesn't make any sense. And that's why I'm in a lawsuit. Where else can I go to get my name back, be cleared as a racist, and get my career back? I mean, this is the career I love. It's my passion. I was working at another job in my early 40s, and I gave that up. I was making a bunch of money to pursue my passion, and it worked out great. And look at where I am today.
Well, Doug, your fight is a fight for a lot of people, so people support you, and most of all, your family and friends know you. So don't let it get to don't let it get to who you are, and keep fighting back and coming on shows.